Hello and welcome back to the On The Slab Horror Show, the show that we bring to you each and every Friday night. Why we do this on a Friday night? Because Friday night's horror night. It's so good we got it on a t-shirt that I don't have on display tonight. But we did manage to wrangle up a guest from a new film that I got to check out recently. It's a indie horror coming across and it is off the charts good. This is the lead actress from Haunt season. This is actress Sarah Elizabeth. How are you?
I am doing good. How are you? Of
Not too bad. Not too bad. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to come on.
course, I'm super excited to be here and just to talk about the movie with you.
Absolutely. And as I said, we appreciate the time of coming on. I know there's a time difference, obviously, being in the States.
Right. Yeah, the 6 hour time difference is a little tough, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
That's it. That's it. Committed to the cause and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do love the movie I was in, so I'm
I,
super excited about it.
absolutely. Like I found this, as I said to you, I had it on. I threw it on just to have something in the background.
Mhm.
And I found myself glued to it after like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh. um, so the movie is Haunt season.
Yes, that's the name of it. So the premise is, if you would like me to do the synopsis, it's basically a girl named Matilda, who is me, who is looking for her next acting job, and she stumbles upon this haunted house on like the last days of Halloween. And so she gets in there and she doesn't really know what to expect. She's kind of nervous and everything, and then suddenly the castmates are getting picked off one by one. And so while she's trying to figure out her acting, she's also trying to figure out who's killing all of her new friends. So it was super fun.
When I read the synopsis or what would be their back of the DVD, the thing, I always thought that that kind of premise for a movie makes great sense because that could happen and no one would think any different, really.
No, I thought the exact same thing because I remember when I was younger, we would always like tell ghost stories about how like a haunted house near us like had someone who went crazy and like started killing like people who were coming in. And I don't know if some of them are true, some of them are not, but it's like always been like a thing that would go around. So it is like a realistic thing that could potentially happen. And I feel like it definitely has happened, and I just don't know the news stories on the top of my head.
I
But yeah.
mean, like it's happened in enough sort of TV shows and not so much other movies. Well, maybe there is, and I just haven't seen them. But it's
Yeah,
definitely happened in shows that I've watched.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a thing that could happen, and I feel like has happened, which is even more scarier to me just because it's, with horror movies, you think like, oh, like that can't happen. So like stuff with like Insidious or something, be like, oh, like that can't happen to me. But it's like people go to haunted houses all the time and they're just like, oh my gosh, like one of these actors could like be for real and like try to kill me. That's where it freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah, see, I can't tend to go to those haunted houses with live actors. Uh,
See, I thought the same thing until I actually did this movie, and just like the people who were some of the castmates were also haunt actors. So like they were working in that haunted
oh, they
house,
were
and
legit. Like,
yeah, some of them were like the real workers for that haunted house, and they are some of like the kindest people I've ever met in my life, which is so funny because they're like trying to terrify people. But they're some of like the coolest and kindest people I've ever met. So having that, like going into haunted houses now when there are live actors, I get like a sense of comfort, at least for the time
yeah,
being. Like these,
it's that no touch thing for me. Some
yeah.
of the times it's involuntary. Like me and my mate went over to one in Manchester when we were in the UK last year,
Mhm.
and for like the parts that we were walking around, I literally had to walk around with my hands in my pockets. I was like, oh god.
Oh yeah, that does get freaky to me. I think there are some, don't you have to sign like contracts or something? If you
Uh, there probably is some of them. Obviously that one in America where they actually tortured you for like 12 hours. Was it McKinley House or whatever?
Oh my gosh, I did hear about that one. Yeah, that one freaked me out. I don't, would that even be considered a haunted house, or is that just
Well,
like,
I think that's what it goes down as, but I'm pretty sure it's just torture porn.
yeah, I know because I remember I saw something on that and I was like, oh my gosh, people are willingly doing that. That's like terrifying. And I saw like people afterwards going through that and having like PTSD, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah. You're being tortured for 12 hours.
I think you would definitely have PTSD. But yeah, the haunted house I was in, there's no torture for 12 hours. You just kind of walk through, you get a little jump scares here and there, and
Nobody touches you. It's all good.
yeah, yeah, no one touches you. It's all good, but all of the set is like made in house. So Steve, who owns the haunted house, like he and a crew, like they remake it every single year, and it's super awesome. And it's just like when you go into it, it's like at least during the Halloween time, they have like a shop over here, and then like a little escape room right here. Like it just kind of immerses you into the world, and then you go into like the haunted house that they have, which is what we primarily filmed in.
Nice, yeah, because I was talking to Jake, obviously, who's the director, and we were trying to line up an episode which will happen some stage in the future.
Yeah.
And he was saying that it was a legit place, like the bowling alley's real.
Yeah, the bowling alley's real, the arcade is real, like it's all like in one place. It's one of those places that has all the fun stuff in one type of package. So the bowling alley, the arcade, the haunted house, which is seasonal. Trying to think what else they have. Those are like the main things though. But yeah, all that's real, which
Mini
is
golf? Was it mini golf? There was a mini
oh,
golf
mini
course.
golf, that's what it is. Yes, mini golf course. Yeah, it has it all in that place, and that's where they oh, go-karts as well. They have that.
Nice.
So they kind of have everything, and then the seasonal haunted house stuff.
Yeah, it'd be great to have something like that because you could do so much with it. Obviously, provided that you have the money to do it.
No, absolutely. And it was really nice because the owners were like friends with Jake, and so they like allowed us like to film during like off hours when they weren't having the place open to the public. And so we got to like run through the arcade and then obviously the bowling alley scene and like the mini golf. So we got to utilize like kind of all of that, which was super fun.
Yeah. So just on that, how did you end up in this movie?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, it was my last year in school, and I was kind of doing the thing I always did, which is I would check on like the acting posts on the websites that I usually did for like self-submitting. And I saw Haunt season come up, and I read the synopsis for the character Matilda, and I was like, wow, she sounds exactly like me. And so I submitted myself, and luckily Jake liked what he saw and gave me an audition and a callback, and then the rest is history.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. First round, nailed it.
Well, actually, the funny story. So the first audition and also the callback, I messed up both of them, which didn't didn't hurt anything, surprisingly. But the callback, it was like kind of like a Zoom thing like this. And so I signed in early just to make sure like everything's working and like there was no technical like issues. And so I was like, okay, I'm early, I'm gonna sign out. And then once I signed out, I get like a notification like, oh, how did your audition go?
Oh,
And I
you
was like,
can't get back in.
yeah, I was like, what is happening? And so I like kept trying to get back in. So I messaged Jake like panicking, like, I'm so sorry, like I clicked it early, like, can you send me a new one? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it.
Oh, it's just
Um,
a one-time link.
yeah, it was just a one-time link, but then eventually I got in and I did the audition. And then a couple months later, I get a call back from him, which I was surprised by because I was like, totally messed that up. But you know what? Thank
Fuck
God.
it.
Yeah, I was like, all right. And then for the callback, this was in, I think it was a theater in Chicago. And so my sister lived in Chicago like at the time and I didn't. And so I was like, oh, I'll stay at base and then go like in the morning, which was like a 5-minute walk. But I didn't know that day was the Pride Parade and we were on the other side of the parade, so I couldn't cross the barricade to get over to the callback. So we were biking down like all of the roads to see if I could probably cross the parade or like somehow get across to get to the theater. And it just wasn't happening. Like it was just fully, fully not letting me in. And so I'm crying at this point. I'm texting Jake. I'm like, I'm sorry again. Like, I'm just not going to be able to make it to this callback. Like, I still am really interested. So I didn't get to go to that callback. But then eventually, he held like another callback at the place we filmed. And he's like, oh, why don't you come here? And then it all worked out seemingly, even though I
And then there was something else that we couldn't get to that one.
no, no, that one was almost because there was like a tornado warning that night, but I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this a third time. It's like I'm gonna risk it if I need to. I'm gonna go to this callback. And eventually I did, and everything was fine.
Nice, nice.
So I
And
was like,
it worked out well for you too.
No, it did work out well. The only thing was like the four girls, so me included like the other th like main three girls, we couldn't do a chemistry read. So the first time I met those girls was when we like did the escape room in the movie. And it
Oh,
was
that was
just
the first thing you filmed, was it?
yeah, first day we filmed and that was the first day I got to meet them and it was like an instant like click, which I was so grateful for because I was like so nervous showing up and just being like, oh, like I'm just nervous. Like I hope everyone likes me. I hope every like and it was just like immediate connection, which was awesome. But they were at that callback where I couldn't get across the parade, unfortunately.
You should have just jumped it.
I really was considering it. I'm not even I was considering running out in the middle of the road, but I didn't know how fast the parade was and there was cops all around and I was like, I don't know if I want to get arrested right now. I was like, maybe
Or what? Or you should have even went to a cop and been like, "I need to get to the other side."
I think I did. I we asked one of the cops and we are like, is there a way we can get across? And they were like, no. So I was like, okay, don't want to get arrested. That's that's not the plan for this. So
What you do?
unfortunately,
You
it worked out.
run in the middle of the road and be like, "I'm doing it for the hype."
You know, I was like, I was really desperate in that moment. So it was like, it really like, it was a millisecond, but I was like, ooh, do I do it? Do I do it? And then I was like, okay, let's be rational. We can't, we can't do that here, or just pretend that I'm in the parade and sneak
Dance,
across.
just do the little Simpsons dance all the way across the
Uh,
parade.
that's what I'm saying. And then everyone would see, they'd be like, no, you, what are you doing? But yeah, I was kind of in panic mode, so my brain wasn't working. That type.
Brain wasn't computing properly.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It was just in full blown like panic mode. Like, what am I gonna do? But luckily, Jake looked past that and casted me
Nice.
in.
He seems like a nice fella from talking to him anyway.
Oh my God, he is so great. I remember being on, it was like one of the best experiences I had just because I felt like so safe in this environment. Like whenever there was like a concern or like he was just always focused on the actors' like safety, which I thought was like huge. And just like making sure everyone was okay and like all this stuff. But he's such like a genuine guy, which was I felt very lucky being able to work with him.
Nice, nice. And that's always a good thing to hear, especially like obviously you hear of certain movies where people have such bad experiences on, and obviously some of the bigger Hollywood movies that have been like that. So
Oh yeah,
when you
absolutely.
when you hear
Yeah.
of a good one, it's always a good thing to hear, especially in indie movies as well.
I know, yeah, and I was like, I was super lucky. Just like all like the cast and crew, they were all just like genuine people and just like cared about each other. Which I was thinking that too. I was like, is this how it always is, or am I just like getting really lucky right now? I'm like, I hope it's always like this, but yeah, everyone was just really awesome and caring and just great to be with.
Well, I mean, I've done quite a lot of interviews with a lot of indie stars that have been in a lot of movies, and every one of them, people have literally all been great reports of. Friendly on set, like great place to work, this, that, and the other. And it's something that I bring up quite regularly. You hear it in terms of in the horror community. It's probably the closest knit of people when you're working in it,
Hmm.
as well as the fans. Like fans of horror, like you can have a stupid horror and it's amazing, and
No,
then you
that
can have a serious horror and it's amazing. It doesn't make sense that both can be.
right. No,
But
I get that because I actually didn't realize there was such a big community in horror. I just remember I like really loved horror movies and I didn't realize just like how close everyone was, which was like just so cool to me and comforting in a sense, just because I was like, wow, I'm like we're making something that like even if it doesn't work out for us, like people are still gonna love it, which I thought was really, really cool.
yeah, like I watch quite a lot of indie stuff that gets sent to me and stuff because we don't get quite a lot of it over here.
Mm,
Obviously we got Terrifier and stuff, but
Terrifies, that's a good one.
well, sorry, we got Terrifier 3 in the cinema. Terrifier 2 didn't make it to the cinema over here
Oh,
2 years
really?
ago. Yeah, but
That's
it got released on. So we have where you have video on demand. We have Sky,
okay.
and it got released. I think it was on Sky where you could buy and rent it.
Hmm.
So that's where I got to see it when it came
Yeah,
out.
I don't think I've seen it yet because I want to like watch it from the beginning because
You haven't
I
seen
remember
Terrifier 2?
no, I want to make sure like I'm watching it chronologically and I don't know where I can find Terrifier 1. Maybe that's where I gotta search.
I don't know what it's like for yous over there, but it's on Amazon Prime over here.
And then it probably is over here too because I was like I've always been meaning to watch it, but I just keep forgetting and then I wanted to do it before the next movie came out, but then it just kept getting kept
They're very good. They're
yeah,
very good. We had
definitely.
uh, we had
It
the lads
unlocked a
from
new
Fuzz on the Lens
fear.
on.
Yeah, no, it unlocked a new fear in clowns for me. I never thought I would be afraid of clowns, but then when I saw the trailers, I was like, "Oh, okay,
It's,
back back to the fear."
everyone tries that, and I think it doesn't. It's not a scary clown, if you know what I mean.
Interesting. So yeah, it's kind of like a
He's a
comical, like
he's a
whimsical.
funny. Yeah, it's his body language is funny. David Howard Thornton's just absolutely phenomenal.
Right. I saw a video of him like getting his makeup on, and it was like 6 hours, and I was like,
I'd
"Wow."
sleep in it if I had to do that every day.
"Oh yeah, yeah," because he probably has to get there so early. So I'd be like, "All right, I'm taking a nap, everyone." And that would probably
Yeah,
work out for like the designers and the makeup artists too, because then
yeah.
the person's just still.
Well, it would for me because if I fall asleep, that's it. I just dead. That's it. It's game over.
Yeah, and then you wake up and you see all the makeup and you're like, oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, he could do. Brandon Lee done it for the Crow. So when he
What?
put it on, when Brandon Lee done the Crow, he
Oh,
had the makeup and he slept in it.
oh really? That
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense.
No, like
Yeah.
his one wasn't even. His was just white paint with black marks on it. But
Uh,
because he wanted it more worn looking throughout the movie, he used to sleep in it.
mm. Oh,
Yeah,
that actually
it was
that's
pretty
good to
good.
know.
I
Oh,
only read it there not so long ago, and it
yeah,
brings a newfound appreciation for the movie as well.
well, yeah, especially hearing he like slept in it because I feel like that would just get itchy at some point and just like you wake up and like all the makeup's on your pillow. But I love the commitment to that. I always appreciate movies that have like really big commitment to the
Yeah.
character.
Unfortunately, it didn't end quite so well for him, but
Yeah. You know
that's
what? Horror
that's
movie has a good ending.
that's something different though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, fair enough.
yeah, well, like with haunt season, like as I said, I found it, I put it on, I was like, yep, gonna give this some attention and see what it's like. Obviously, being part of the horror community in the podcast world, I tend to try and watch as much as I can.
Mhm.
So when I seen it, I googled it and went on to see if there was anything else about it, see what the critics say. Not that I follow too much into them because
Mhm.
Rotten Tomatoes isn't worth anything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
do you know what the current rating for Haunt Season on Rotten Tomatoes is?
I don't know, I don't think.
Want to hazard a guess?
Are we doing like the tomatoes or the
The
star?
the popcorn meter,
I want to say maybe 52.
52.
Yeah.
No, nowhere
No.
near.
Lower?
It's at 92%.
92?
92 out of 50 plus ratings.
Okay, I did not expect that at all.
That's the fans one now.
Wow, really?
Yeah, the tomato meter is not available yet because it hasn't reached a certain level of reviews from critics.
That's fair. That's fair.
But 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's crazy. I wasn't expecting that at all, actually.
Yeah,
Especially
that's
with like an indie
that's
movie.
something else. Yeah,
Yeah, that's really awesome, and it's so nice to hear. I'm glad like people are liking what they see.
so, what was your experience like on set? Obviously, you said that it was real friendly and safe and stuff. But was it a fun movie to make?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. So how Jake's had it set up is we would work on the weekends because a lot of us had like daytime jobs and like I was still in school, so like he made it easy for us to like come on the weekend. So it's kind of like a mini vacation almost.
Nice,
Some days were shorter than others. Like some days we had like an 8 hour day, which was not too long. And then other days we would have maybe a 12, 13 hour days. And those were the ones where we were doing like a night shoot. But each and every time it was always so much fun. Like we got to do the new scenes and just got to like talk to everyone. And I screamed a lot, which was fun. But um yeah, everything was just super organized. And even though there were like long days, it didn't feel long. It didn't feel like it was dragging on. If that makes
That
sense.
that that was my next question. Is that your real scream in it?
Wait, what?
You know, when you were screaming, is that you or was
Yeah,
that
oh
in
yeah,
superimposed?
that's my real scream. Yeah, so the first time Jake actually heard me scream because he didn't have me do it in the audition or the callback was the one in front of the spider where I'm like with my gray sweater. So that was the first time I did my scream. And then there's a sequence in the movie where I'm just like constantly screaming. That was back to back to back. So I think that was like I want to say 3 hours of just like straight screaming back to back,
Nice.
which I'm surprised I didn't shoot out my voice, but just
Totally,
I was fine the next day.
totally worth it.
Yeah, it was. It really was. And I don't know how I did it. I don't know how my voice was fine. I don't know how my voice is still fine, but maybe it was like the diaphragm or something. But yeah, the first time I ever screamed in front of Jake and everyone was when it was like my audition scene.
Yeah, just get you go into the room.
Yeah, yeah. So I literally just like walked up there and Jake was like when I first did it, he was like, "Oh, like it's like do what you can, like no need to worry about it." And so I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, I'm already gonna be like feeling weird that I'm doing this, so like might as well give it 100%. And the first time I did it, Jake was like, oh my God. And everyone was running up to me and being like, do you need a cough drop? Do you need water? I'm like, no, I'm
I'm
okay."
fine.
Yeah, I was like surprised. Weirdly, I'm okay. Nothing's wrong.
Nice, nice. Now, one thing I noticed, I found with a lot of sort of indie movies, especially in this kind of way, there's excessive nudity in some of them for some of them for no apparent reason.
Right.
No, not that there's a problem with it, but I'm along the lines where I'm like, sometimes it's fun to be in it, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's just shoehorned in to try and get people there.
Yeah, because I remember I think I talked to Jake about it because originally when I was chained up on the wall, I think I was supposed to be in bra and underwear, and I had a conversation with him, and I was like, do I need to do this? Like, is it necessary?" And he was like, "No." He's like, "No need to." But yeah, the one character I'm guessing you're referring to, the naked guy, we like to call him Jace.
That was gas. That was
Yeah.
so funny.
Yes.
That was a real fuck you to the obviously where there used to be always women that were naked.
Yeah, no, I know. That's what I loved about it. That's what I loved about like Jake's writing. So I was just like, you know what, this is perfect. But yeah, he was really cool with it and it was just kind of funny how
Was he actually naked in the film?
yeah, he was fully. Which is funny because everyone's like, "Oh, did you like make eye contact?" And I was like, "No, I just made sure to keep my head forward just because
My eyes are up here, up
yeah.
here.
Yeah, I just out of respect for him, I would feel bad doing that. So I just made sure to keep it forward. But yeah, he was fully naked the whole time. And he was super comfortable with it too, which
He,
I was like, good
he,
for you, dude.
he didn't even get one of those sock things.
Yeah, yeah. I was surprised he didn't ask for that, but he was like, no, like I'm fine. And I was
That's
like,
a
okay.
man that's comfortable in his skin.
I know. I was like, good for you, dude. And I think Jake was like that too. He's like, oh, do you want like need this? Or and he was like, no, like I'm totally okay.
I know, obviously. Then, as I said, it's kind of like a fuck you to the where you'd have women being naked, but
Right.
they did their best with giving you your outfit for the being chained on the wall with the schoolgirl outfit.
Right. Yeah. That's what like I was talking to Jake about. I was like, we could still like if is there like a happy medium we could do with my outfit where I'm not like fully naked, but just like have that like still emulated. But yeah, I liked how Jake did that because he was like, oh yeah, like horror movies, they always have just like random nudity. And I was like, oh, is that why like you have like this, and this? And he was like, yeah, he's like, you can't have a horror movie without nudity, which I thought was so interesting because then every horror movie I think about I watched, I was like, oh my gosh, he's so right. I was like,
Yeah,
so
to an extent, there's a few that I've seen that haven't had it.
yeah, there's a few I've seen too, but some of like the older ones in the 90s, or maybe I'm wrong.
Wrong Turn in '03 is one of my favorite ones. It doesn't have any.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one. Well, that's good to know. So
There
they're
no, there is. Texas Chainsaw 2000, the remake in 2003 didn't have any.
oh, that's true.
Yeah, with Jessica Biel. I didn't
Yeah.
have any. There are a few. There's not many. Like it just tends to go part and parcel with horror is somebody getting their boobs out or whatnot.
Mm, yeah. Yeah,
It's just a given. It's just gonna happen.
it's just gonna happen at some point, and that's what I never realized with horror movies. I never really like connected the dots.
Especially in slashers, anyway.
Yeah, with slashers. I just for some reason I never connected the dots with that. And then once I was in this and like Jake explained it to me, I was like, oh,
Mm.
I was
Yeah.
like, that makes sense. I never really noticed that.
What he explained, it, you got to get naked. Not happening.
Yeah, I was like, maybe next time. I was like that not this round, but
Not quite.
we'll see what happens. But yeah, I figured
Throw a few more zeros on the paycheck, and maybe.
yeah, I figured I was like, okay, this is like my first debut movie, maybe a little along my career, but this is a little too soon for me at the moment. And he was super receptive of that, which was really awesome. And that's where I say like being like the safe and just like the kindness and caring about the actors, which I is just super awesome.
Yeah, well, like that's a good thing. You know what I mean? As I says, I don't necessarily need it in movies. Sometimes it's fun to see it, and you're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Just kind of like a surprise, like, oh, there it is.
Sometimes, like I was watching one day where there wasn't anything in it until like the second last scene, and they turn a corner, and you once just stark naked, and you're like, oh,
You're like, oh,
okay.
all right.
Had absolutely nothing to do with the movie, like zero. If it
It
wasn't
was
there, you wouldn't have even cared.
That's so funny. They just kind of put it in there. They're like, oh, we kind of forgot to put this in.
Yeah, it's something like that. I'd say it was in our contract or something that she was kind of
Yeah,
getting.
like you have to do this. Yeah, which is I with Jake, I've never felt like I've had to do anything, which was
Bar
really, really
scream.
yeah. Oh yeah, okay, Scream, but I was okay with that.
Yeah, that one was fine.
That one I can do. I can do that.
I will say the effects in this movie as well, though, were top drawer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I it was really cool like just seeing like the final product of it. Because I would always hear about Jake's vision and like what he had in his head and I would just like do it and like do whatever he needed me to do and then but actually seeing it on a screen was really cool with
yeah.
all the
I suppose it'd be hard for you, obviously, doing scene by scene in different order. As you said, you started in the escape rooms, which is sort of probably about half an hour to 40 minutes into the film.
yeah. It wasn't as bad as I expected it to be because usually that day, Jake would tell us like what scenes we were filming, and so then I would just kind of refresh my memory on like where I am in the story, like do I know who the killer is, or like do I know what's happening, like, and so it was pretty good to be like prepared because Jake would like let us know like, okay, we're doing these scenes today.
No, no, that what I meant by that was like obviously you're doing different scenes at different times.
Mhm.
So it's not in chronological order. It's not as if you're filming it and you're seeing what's happening scene by scene.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. It definitely was. So it's like when we would do one scene, sometimes it would be confusing. I'd be like, how is this like gonna play out? Like, how is this gonna like play for just like the scene in general? But it was cool to see the ending of it.
It certainly made a thing. Like, did you know going in who the killer was?
I did just because after I found out the role, that's when Jake sent the script to us. And I remember the first time I was reading it, I was trying to figure out like who the killer was, and when I did find out, I didn't expect it, but it was funny to me just to see because I was like, oh, I was like, I didn't plan for that, but like, I kind of like it. So I knew when we were filming, but when I first read it, I was definitely shocked.
It took me about 12 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that.
Oh, really? Into the film?
Yeah,
See, I'm not good at picking up those cues with horror and stuff. Like I try to be like, oh, that's who the person is, but then when it comes down to it, it just like flies over my
I,
head.
I'm usually notoriously good at figuring it out quite quickly.
Mm,
Now
that's like your
there has been a few um, where I've been like it's this person and they get killed and I was like
I
oh
know.
goddamn.
Some of my favorite movies actually is like when I think I know what's happening, and then it turns out to be the complete opposite in the end, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not as smart as I thought I was.
Well, ironically, with that for me, do you remember the very first lockdown of 2020?
Hmm.
Uh, I obviously everyone was watching movies and being locked at home and stuff. I watched Scream. Right, I watched one, two, and three,
Yeah,
and
that's a good
for being
one.
such a big horror fan, I was like, okay, I've seen these. Turns
Hmm.
out I'd never seen them,
Yeah,
or if I did, I didn't remember a tap.
I just recently watched the first Scream, which is kind of shocking.
For the first time?
For the first time, yeah.
I'm so jealous.
Which is crazy to me because it's like now it's one of my favorite movies ever, especially like the first one. And I would always hear people like hype it up, and I was like, oh, like maybe I'll watch it like this year, but I would always be worried I would be too scared. But then I watched it and I was like, oh, I get why this is like a cult classic and like why there are so many movies with this.
See,
And
I wouldn't even go with being a cult classic. That's just
oh,
an
really?
all round classic.
Classic, yeah, fair enough. That actually, I agree with that. I take back my statement because it is just like such a classic
Yeah,
movie.
like
Just the actors are just
I say that now, going, oh yeah, she's only watched it for the first time, but you're young.
no, I after I watched it, I wanted to watch it like so many other times, and I think I watched the second one too. Um,
Two is very good as well.
yeah, no, I really enjoyed that one too, and I think I was gonna watch the rest of the series, but then I got too tired in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
Um, but I get like all of the things, and I was just like, wow, this is such a good movie. It's just like so cool to like see what like everyone's being like, no, 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 you need to watch this, and getting
and
to
like
watch it the first time and like trying to figure out who.
the throw to Nightmare on Elm Street in it as well was brilliant.
Yeah, haven't seen that one either. See, I need to like catch up on like
You've never seen Nightmare? Oh man, I'm so jealous.
I know there's so many I need to catch up on because I've only been watching like recent horror movies. And then I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I have to watch like the classics too, because if I don't, then it's like I can't have the appreciation for like the newer ones too. Because I feel like the
Like,
classics are like the base. And then
seeing as we're at this point of the conversation, throw me out your top five horrors then.
I was actually trying to think about this before I came in. I don't know if this one
They don't
counts.
they don't technically have to be in an order.
Okay, I don't know if this one counts as a horror, but more of like a psychological, like messed up one. But Midsummer is a
Disaster.
really good one for me, just because
Disaster.
you don't like that one?
No. Our,
That's crazy.
our co-host Carl likes Midsummer but loves Hereditary.
Let's see, that one I haven't seen.
Oh,
There's so many I haven't seen, but Midsummer is on the top one. Scream is also Scream number one. That's a top one for me.
yeah,
Um,
that's our other co-host Ted. That's his favorite one.
it's just so good. Wait, I think I Nightmare on Elm Street. That's Freddy Krueger, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, wait, I have seen that. That's on the top three. I think I was thinking of Jason. That's who I was thinking of.
that's Friday the 13th. They can stay there. Great character, but all the movies are the same.
Yeah, but the original Freddy Krueger I thought was really, really good. Um,
Better than the fucking remake still.
I haven't seen the remake. See, there's so many that I
You
like.
don't need to see the remake.
I only have a top three right now, just because I'm so like I'm like a newborn in the horror
How long have
category.
you been watching horror for?
What?
How long have you been watching horror?
Honestly, ever since I did this movie, because I like was always like interested in it, but I would get like scared. But then once I did this movie in like 2022, then I started to actually get interested in it to see like the nuances of like creating one of these and then just seeing it play out. So now I've been starting to make my way into it.
At some point, I will send you a list.
Yeah, because I was a big chicken for most of my life because I think I watched Paranormal Activity, the first one, when I was in like fourth grade, and I was like
So,
terrified.
what age are you in fourth grade?
Like I want to say like 8 or 9, but
Right.
I was terrified of that movie, and I was just like, I'm never watching any sort of horror movie again.
That came out in 2009.
I just remember I was young and I was in elementary school.
Yeah, it's
And I
probably a bit
thought,
early for that one. Although nothing really happens.
I know, but it's just like it's ghosts, and it's I feel like it's like a realistic like.
Oh, I thought it was very good the first time I seen it. I went to see it in the cinema.
Yeah, I watched it. I think it was at my friend's house, and like her dad was watching it, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to watch?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I can handle this." And then I didn't. I couldn't handle it for sure.
Sleeping becomes a problem.
Oh, I don't think I slept for 5 months, or if I did, my lights were on the entire night, and I was just like, I'm never watching a horror movie again." And then I did this movie, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually like really interesting. I
And
should really get into
I
this."
I found watching this one there was definitely throws to some of the older ones that
Yeah,
I've seen.
yeah. Jake was like telling me about like some of the older things that he was like throwing it back to, which I didn't get just because I haven't watched those movies, unfortunately, which I should have, which I'm going to, but
It's probably
um
because you're about 12.
and I was terrified for my life. But um yeah, there was like multiple. I remember the songs he was saying. It was like something specific with the songs that he chose on purpose. Or maybe
Yeah.
not. It
Music in movies for me it's not really a thing. I'm not a huge music person.
Oh, really? Yeah, I feel like the sound or music in a movie kind of makes it, depending on like
Oh
your
no,
ear.
it absolutely does. But if I heard it in a different film,
Oh,
unless it's one that I know, like obviously if I heard the Nightmare on Elm Street theme song, or you hear the Halloween, or
yeah,
you hear Friday the 13th, you hear Lord of the Rings, you'll know what it is.
yeah. It's like a classic sound that
Yeah,
like every.
Jaws,
Yeah,
and things like that. But when
yeah,
it's like say I don't know, say it's like Rob Zombie's Dracula has been in a million films.
yeah. And then it's just like okay.
But anytime I hear that in the movie, I automatically go back to think of Idle Hands.
Mm.
You definitely not seen that one.
No, I haven't. I know I haven't seen any of these, which
That's
is
a comedy horror. It's a pretty funny one.
yeah.
Uh,
I realized I do like comedy horrors when I would like watch the trailers because he like with all these movies I watch the trailers, but I haven't watched the movies yet. So then I plan to. I like have
I think it
the.
was one of Jessica Alba's first movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jessica Alba and Devon Sawa, Seth Green.
That's crazy. That has a really good cast in it.
Yeah, oh, it was funny. Yeah, his
Yeah.
hand gets possessed by a demon or something.
Oh my God. It's funny because it's like with horror, you wouldn't think like comedy would be possible. It's kind of like an oxymoron, but then if it's done well, I feel like it works.
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun
Shaun
of
of
the
the Dead. Shaun of
Yeah.
the Dead is the greatest comedy horror probably
Oh,
ever
really?
made.
I'm guessing it's about zombies.
Yeah,
Just by the title of it. Yeah.
it's an English film made. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost made it.
I've heard Nick. Oh yeah, Nick Frost. Yeah.
Yeah, Simon Pegg is in Mission Impossible and stuff.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say you'd know it if you've seen it. You've definitely seen The
Right.
Rock or something somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting like a master class right now in like horror movies. I definitely needed this just
From
because.
from me, the like at some point, like if you go through our back catalog, we've gone back all the way to the 20s.
Yeah.
So we went back to the 20s. We done five from the 20s, five from the 30s, five from the 40s, five from the 50s, five from the 60s to watch, and then 10 from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like done back like not long, but it makes sense ever since movies were starting
Yeah.
to create.
Well, horror's always been a thing because people, whether they like horrors or not, want to be scared
Yeah, because like it's there's a feeling with it where it's like that exhilaration when like
when
you
it's
get
over. Yeah.
yeah when it's over and then you realize you're just like getting scared of it. It's like yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a dopamine type of thing and
And it's probably the reason that people go to these haunted houses and stuff.
right to get that like thrill or like that rush of emotion just to like feel that. And that's what I figured was just like any horror movie or any haunted house is
So
what
you got both aspects of it in this one.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I tried who did I try to channel? Yeah, because it was funny because like going into this, I was like kind of scared and like a little nervous because I was like, is it gonna freak me out? And some of the blood did. There was like some times when I was like, "Ooh," like getting a little nauseous, but I was trying to channel Jamie Lee Curtis the whole time, and that's what kind of helped me get through it.
Okay, it's a choice. Strange choice
Not a good
for
one.
the type
Like,
of movie. Strange choice for me for the type of movie, but
mm.
uh,
I the reason I say Jamie Lee Curtis is because I always loved her scream. I remember in Halloween, like her scream was really good, and so she was like the main person that like came up with or came to mind for me when thinking about like I had to be like a big screamer, and then how she's always survived Michael. I'm like, oh okay,
yeah, I for me, if I went off the top of my head, if I was you playing that role, obviously you haven't probably haven't seen it.
Mhm.
But the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
See, that's on my list to
Marlon
watch.
Burns.
Yeah, I've seen some videos from that one. Um, and I agree with that. I feel like I should have channeled her if I would
I,
have known about it.
ironically, that scene, from the dinner scene in Texas Chainsaw when she's screaming all the time, that
Mhm.
ruins the film for me. I fucking hate it from then on.
Really? You didn't like the screaming?
No, the whole dinner scene just for me, I'm just like, nah.
Oh, that's interesting because many people, when I like talk to them about it, they like say like that's one of like the most iconic scenes.
Yeah, it
Or
is. It's just stuff that happens in it. I'm like, no,
that
not
you're
for me.
just like it kind of takes you out of it. That's really fair, and that's good to know when I watch it because that's always been one I've been excited for, like to watch. But the reason I think I've like horror movies have held like I've hold them off for so long is like gore. Gore always like freaks me out, and I have to like tell myself like okay, it's not real. But like I've always been so squeamish with blood and everything, and that's why Texas Chainsaw Massacre I was always terrified to watch because I was like, oh my god, the man
Ironically, the
here's a face.
the first one, the original one, and even the 2003 remake, there's not a whole lot of blood in it.
Interesting.
This is what, well, like everyone goes on about how vicious the first one is. It's
Mm.
not really at all. It's about everything else.
Okay, I'm gonna take your word for it because
Yeah.
from what I've seen of the videos, it looks
If I'm not mistaken, yeah, no, I am right. There's not a whole lot in it.
more of just the premise of like the
Yeah.
family, like the
Obviously,
story.
he's wearing a human skin as his face and stuff is a bit weird, but
Yeah, yeah, that's what freaks me out.
the fact that that's kind of semi based off a true story is also weird.
I know whenever I hear about like
Again,
horror stories when it's like based on a true story, that's when it like freaks me out even more.
well, this is, I'd say, loosely based. Ed Gein used to make human skin
Oh
like
yeah, I remember that.
furniture and stuff.
Furniture, books.
Yeah,
Remember the lampshade
yeah.
specifically.
I wouldn't mind. Charlie Hunnam is playing him in the new season of Monsters, and I'm like, God damn, what
That
a
was
casting!
good. I know because they just did the Menendez brothers, so I feel like they should just keep making it
Oh,
a
I don't watch any of them. My missus loves all that true crime stuff.
Oh,
But
you don't watch that?
no,
See, I love true crime.
yeah, she's
It,
like that. She just be telling me about things, and I'm like, no idea.
it's just so interesting to me because it's like with horror movies, it's like you can tell yourself, okay, this isn't real, but then you see like true crime and it just like freaks you out because you're like, how can someone's brain think that way? And then also like do it. It's so like it's a level of freakiness to me that I'm just like, oh, these are like real people and like real lives that are affected, not just like a story that someone made up.
Like out of all the stories she told me over the 12 years we've been together or whatnot, I've known one case. Like legitimately myself known one case.
What is it?
Oh, I'm not saying because it's a touchy subject.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I was gonna
Yeah.
say, yeah, there's so many cases that I know, and it's just interesting to keep up with because, yeah, like I said before, it's an extra scariness to me just because it's like it's real life. Like we can't just like teleport into a movie and then like once it's turned off, we can just go back to our real lives. Like these are like real people in their real lives, which is
Yeah,
sick.
I found
That
myself I got a movie off a director a while ago to watch, um and it's a true story. It's called The Black Mass.
I don't think I've heard of that one. No.
Devanny Payne directed it, and like a few other people that have been on the show were in it. And I'm notorious for when I watch a horror film, even if I haven't seen it before,
Mm.
I'm going in, going. If it's a slasher, I'm always rooting for the killer. Like,
That's
there's no
crazy.
option. That's what's happening.
Rooting for the killer.
Yeah, no doubt in my mind, one of the teams are at fault.
See, that's it. That's a definitely a different mindset that I haven't heard of before. Because I'm always thinking like I'm rooting for the final girl or the final person, but rooting for the characters.
Like, if you think about it, right? You go Friday the 13th. The counselors let Jason die, let him drown,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
he gets his own back on. Okay, it's unsuspecting people all the time,
Yeah.
but
He
uh,
started killing because it was those
yeah,
counselors who
yeah.
did that.
Slumber Party Massacre, the same. Uh, any of those kind of slasher movies, there's always something that has happened.
Interesting. Well, I think it's interesting when I see movies when it's like it is a slasher. I can't think of one, but I feel like probably, but where like the killer, like there's just no reason. The killer just like wants to kill. I don't think I've
My,
seen any
my
movies like
Halloween is the only one really.
really like that. Okay, that's what
Yeah,
I
he
figured. Like there
doesn't.
had to be one.
He's just evil.
Yeah, he's just an evil
Like nothing
person.
has happened to him
Yeah, which is
apart
just
from like obviously growing up and
yeah,
getting shot and stuff, but
yeah,
nothing
but
technically happens to him.
yeah, and like for him to start killing, which is then is like you're arguing if you're rooting for the killer. It's like would you root for that person if they're
You absolutely root for the slasher every time. But
that
I found myself watching the Black Mass and I'm like, yeah, go and get everybody, fuck
that.
everyone up. And then I was
Yeah,
like, oh, I was like, actually, I can't root for the killer. This actually happened.
yeah, that
Uh,
that too. If it's if it's a real story, that's when it's like, oh, you can't.
and I said it to her on the show, and she was like, yeah, but that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get that mindset of he shouldn't be icon. What'd she say?
I idol,
Iconicized, idolized.
yeah,
That's the one. Yeah.
idolized, yeah, because
Right.
that's the sad thing with like true crime cases. Like a lot of the killers get idolized. Like,
Well,
uh, when it's like the people getting killed, those are like real families that are affected. So yeah, it's definitely very interesting. But the Black Mass, I haven't heard of that one, but I want to add it to my list of movies to watch.
I'm not sure where you get it in the states, but it's definitely out and it's available, and it's a
Definitely. I definitely will because it sounds very interesting, especially like
hard
I
one,
said, stories
a
based on
good
true.
one.
What? Sorry.
It's a hard watch,
Mm,
but it's good. Like there's
it's
not a whole lot of gore and stuff in it,
yeah.
but it's so it's done in a point of view of like the camera's on the killer's shoulder,
Oh,
so it's
interesting.
like from his eye point of view.
Wait, I've never seen a movie like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was such a
Uh,
good take on it.
yeah, because I feel like a lot of the time it's like it focuses mostly on like the
The final girl.
I think with any horror, yeah, like the final girl, like it focuses mostly on them and never like sees like the point of view and like how they're planning it. The killer usually just kind of like shows up. So
Yeah,
that's like an interesting take on it, which I've never seen before. I'm
yeah,
excited to see it though.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but obviously we're gonna wrap it up here. Because I don't want to give too much about the movie away because it's not long out. It's only out about a month and a bit.
Yes, yes,
So we're not going to give away who the killer is. I'm not going to give away any of the things.
yes.
Um, but it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, Sarah.
Yeah,
Um,
it was so great to be here. I'm super excited that we got to talk about it, and it was so great chatting with you just about horror in general, and I'm excited to watch the movies that you recommended.
podcasting's easy when you're on this show.
I was just like, you're making it look fun.
For anyone that doesn't know, this is Sarah's first podcast. So
Yes. Yes, it
uh,
is. This is my first one. Hopefully,
won't be the last.
yeah, I was like, you know what? I hope I get to do more because this was a lot of fun.
But I mean, you can certainly come back anytime.
Absolutely, I would love that. That would be great.
I know we're going to line up a show with Jake as well in the near future as well. So
Yeah.
we see who jumps on with that one.
Yeah, we'll see if the crew will be able to jump on with it.
That one we might deep dive a bit more because it'll be out a bit longer at that stage.
Oh, yeah. That'll definitely help.
But I'm gonna pitch you one last question before we close out. This one's gonna be a tough one, right?
Right? I'm scared.
What would you rate this movie out of 5?
A 5? Well, I'm biased, so that's really that this
Honestly,
might
it's tough when you do it because then you have to put yourself to the point of I know I'm in it, but
yeah.
what is it? And then I'll tell you what I rated it at.
Hmm. To me personally, I would do a 4 out of 5 just because I know how hard everyone's worked on this movie and with the budget that we were given, I think we did a pretty good job of doing a story for the resources that we had and everyone was just so passionate and just it was a unique story, so I'm biased, and the only reason I took a point off is because I can't do it again. So that's my right.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I've watched 88 movies that were released this year, right? So we keep a ranking
Yeah.
um of like best to worst, right?
Okay.
So 88 new movies, including haunt season,
Okay.
right? Out
Right.
of those 88, now these are all Hollywood as well. They're not just all indie movies.
Hmm.
Where would you think it ranks?
Oh my gosh.
Now
Uh,
I've seen everything on this list. Has the likes of the Iron Claw to Garfield, Despicable Me, Terrifier 3,
I think I would realistically put it at 70. I think that's
70.
I think that's good just for the sense that it was like an indie, like compared to like huge Hollywood movies. Since they have like bigger budgets and more resources, I would say, because I know also I've seen some reviews of like this movie isn't everyone's cup of tea. So that's where I think I would put it possibly.
Okay. You got the 7 bit right, but it's
Oh,
at 17 on my list.
17?
Yeah, it's way up there. I really enjoyed this movie.
I really enjoy it too, but I never
Like,
know. I don't
I,
be
I, I have it ahead of Terrifier 3. I have it ahead of Trap. I have it ahead of Smile 2.
Oh, that's crazy.
Mm,
Wow. That's
Um,
huge compliment. I try, it's always so hard because you get like biased when you see like the mixed reviews and also like the reviews that are not so good. So then it's like where do we stand? I don't know where to stand, you know?
well, I rate it quite highly. I would have given it. I wouldn't have gone 4 myself. I would have went 3.5.
Hmm.
But I rated it quite highly. I thought it was a very fun movie to watch. As I says, it didn't necessarily lean on the gore too much that it didn't need to, like
Right.
some indies do, which is fine.
Right. Right.
It didn't lean on nudity for no reason, again,
Hmm.
which is fine as well in some movies.
Right.
Um, I thought the camera work was brilliant. The effects were very good.
Hmm.
Um, the acting was good. The sound was good. So yeah, all around, I quite enjoyed
Yeah. I quite enjoyed being in it and also watching it. It was
it. Yeah, well, it's always a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is because then you get like a different perspective. And now after that movie, I have a new appreciation and love for horror that I never thought I would gonna have actually.
So it's done its job. Apart
Hmm.
from apart from getting paid to be in it, it's done its job and made a new horror fan.
Right, right. You a new horror fan and also getting some of the money with it.
Jackpot.
I was like, it's a win-win situation.
Uh, but I think we'll leave it there, folks. As I said, Sarah, you're welcome back absolutely anytime. Even if you want, if you've watched the movie and you want to come on and say, "Oh, let's have a chat about this one," because I know you're only seeing some horror films for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, so I'll probably have like a different perspective than maybe some people who watch it like many times. So yeah, I would love to do that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what then. For maybe in a month or so down the way, you pick a movie, you send it to us, and we'll get it rewatched, and then we'll go in and do it.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we'll do, folks, is I'll leave it here the same way I close out the show every single Friday night. In the words of the great George A. Romero, ladies and gentlemen, stay scared.